Welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Talk. I am your host, Colin Cole, and I'm joined by my guest host, two-time all-conference 3-year starter at offensive tackle, Mr. David Porter. David, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Hey man, thanks for having me. It's always a fun thing to do this with you, and it's always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah.
Ready to get into it, dude.
Well,
These Hawks.
Getting into it. Yes, getting into it.
Mm-hmm.
The Hawkeyes are coming off of a loss, as we all know, to the Michigan Wolverines, which puts their current record at 3-2. Which I mean, we saw the game last week was a difficult loss against a team that looked like they are definitely on a mission with their sights set on post season glory. That's what they have their sights set on, and that game was definitely a difficult one for the Hawks. But we got to move on. You know, the season is still upon us. We are the first week of October, and opening up the first week of October, have to travel up to Champaign, Illinois, to take on the Illinois Fighting Illini, led by former Hawk himself, head coach Brett Bielema. And he has those fighting Illini playing very well. David, they are currently 4-1. This Illini team is coming off of a huge win against Wisconsin, their first in 20 years, actually winning up there at Camp Randall. If they win against Iowa, it would mark the first win against Iowa in 14 years. A win would mark their first. Yeah, man, a win. This game will give them opportunity to go 5-1 for the first time since 2001. So they have their sights set on trying to continue their success and see continued success. Obviously, some of the folklore they've had in their history. Beating Iowa would put them square as number one in the Big Ten West. This is a huge game for them, considering what the rest of their season has done, how it goes, and what they've done currently. Minnesota, Purdue, and Illinois are teams that are really they're out there in front in the Big Ten West right now. Illinois currently leads the Big Ten West, like I just mentioned, and their running back Chase Brown actually leads the nation in rushing. So the Hawks have a bit of a task in terms of what they are facing against this Illinois Fighting Illini team. David, let's get into this a little bit. Chase Brown leads the nation in rushing, like I just mentioned. But DeVito, their quarterback, runs the show. What have you seen about these Fighting Illini on film that scares you the most as it pertains to how this team is going to attack the Hawkeye team?
You said it. It's that rushing offense. Their ability to run the ball is amazing. And like you said, they have the leading rusher in the country. They're coming off of an impressive victory against Wisconsin. Wisconsin actually came out and drove the ball the first possession and got a touchdown. Illinois had to punt. Wisconsin got the ball back. They were driving, and then they had an interception. That's how Illinois got the ball back and then scored. Like, they know how to fight, and they don't always play clean ball, which is going to be great for us. But that run game, what happened against Michigan happens again, where they just continually drive the ball down the field. I believe Michigan had 77 yards rushing in the first quarter. That kind of set the tone for the entire game. And if we get the same dose, if we get the same thing happen again with Illinois, God, we're probably looking at something similar happening again. I mean, the O-line will just take over. And that defense, I mean, we've been talking about all year, they've been out there a lot. They've been taking a lot of plays. I believe our defensive special teams are still outscoring our offense just in the break of last year. So, they have been doing a lot for a long time. And if this run game gets going and those offensive linemen start to lean heavy, there's only so much that our defense can really take. So that run game of Illinois, that's going to be a big deal for us to get stopped. My goodness. Because they have really styled their entire team, kind of like Iowa. I guess I'm gonna put it that way. I mean, their defense is stout against the run. They have a really good defense, but they run the ball. They're a run first offense, really. And they are fairly balanced, but they get going off that run. So the run is what I'm seeing as being the big thing. We need to stop them from getting going. They're obviously going to try to get that going. The leading rusher in the country for a reason. They put emphasis on that. They may be shades of when Brett was actually at Wisconsin. They were very, I mean, that's what they were known for. Running the ball, great offensive lineman too. I mean, that's what I'm seeing. What do you see, man?
Yeah, Chase Brown has definitely done a tremendous job in terms of just um, getting the ball downhill. They set the offense around him. Um, he actually, like I mentioned, is number one in the country. Obviously, he's first in the Big Ten. Obviously, ahead of with over 100 yards more than Blake Corum, who's second in the conference. They have a dedication to the run. You mentioned his tenure at Wisconsin, and well, we know that what they've done over the years, they've been very good at putting out good offensive lines with running backs that have done well and have gone on to do well in the multiple levels. And this young man is no different. He's slippery. I watched him a bit. I watched a few games, Indiana and Virginia, and he's in Wisconsin, and he's definitely a slippery back and a guy that oftentimes gets out the back door when guys kind of think that he's been tackled. I've seen him kind of spin out the back door and pick up some huge yards for this team. So he's a young man that's going to be a slippery ball player for this team, and you know it's going to be a challenge for Jack Campbell and those guys on defense to really get after him, man. So that being said, this young man, DeVito, is their quarterback. He's done a tremendous job thus far this season, leading them. They've had some times, David, where, like, say, for instance, in that game against, I believe it was Indiana, no, Virginia, they actually had
Virginia, yeah.
they had four turnovers in that game. They committed four turnovers, but that defense, they kept defense kept them in the game, and they have a tremendous group of guys. It's I don't know, man. It's going to be a difficult task. Like I mentioned, Tommy DeVito, he's actually got 148.28 passer rating currently. He's 107 for
Wow.
150, 107 for 153 attempts, only two interceptions compared to nine total touchdowns with 1,121 yards on the season. So he's doing a tremendous job of getting the ball around. Pat Bryant, number 13, he's caught 18 passes for 313 yards and two touchdowns. Isaiah Williams, number one, very elusive. That young man has the lateral movement and quickness that really creates matchup nightmares that I saw him on film. He actually has 35 catches for 291 yards and two touchdowns. So they work to get those receivers the balls in their hands. Brian Hightower, who is another lengthy wide receiver. He actually has 17 catches on the season for 179 yards and one touchdown. He's a 6'3", 215-pound young man he actually is from Los Angeles, California, but went to high school he actually went to high school at IMG Academy in Florida, which brings me to another thing, David.
We got some speed.
The crazy thing about this, when I say the crazy thing, you and I have been, teammates. We've known each other over 20 years. Brett Bielema, the head coach for the University of Illinois, is the man who recruited me to come to the University of Iowa. And as you know, I'm from South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And one thing that I know about Brett is wherever he's gone, he's worked to get those guys from Florida to come out to work to play for him. He's done a tremendous job of recruiting and making sure
I know where you're going.
What?
I'm just saying, you Florida guys, y'all, it's something about the Florida area. Is that what this is? Like, there's something in the water down there?
I wasn't gonna. I mean, you feel like there's something in the water down there, Dave?
I think there might be. Like the guys I had on my team were pretty freaking good. Now I'm looking at Illinois, and they're bringing Florida guys there. I see the correlations that you're drawing. I mean, you're going to make some kind of causal connection, but I'm like, okay, let me jump ahead of you on that one. Just a little bit. Y'all are great on the team with us. And I mean, we had, I don't know, how many Florida boys do we have on that 02 team?
I honestly couldn't tell you. It's
Man, we had a lot of y'all.
definitely had
But
a uh-huh.
Brett does a really good job of recruiting. He makes sure he brings in the right kind of people to bring in the speed. You know, especially when you get to skill positions, you gotta have talent there. It's okay to understand the X's and O's, but we all know you gotta have those Jims and Joes out there. And that's what you talk. Like Brett is really good at doing that. He identifies with those kids. He resonates with them. Another way of saying they vibe together. So wherever he goes, he's been able to bring and recruit talent to come there with him. At Wisconsin, he did that. At Arkansas, he did that, and he's doing it at Illinois. Proofs in the pudding. I mean, we were talking about Virginia. You were talking about them earlier, and that defense that kept them in the game, right? He's got tremendous talent on that defense. Tremendous talent. Those two defensive tackles, dude, might be two of the best in the country. Might be. I'm not sure where they're from, but man, yes.
Not sure where they're from either. But when we talk about switching over to the defensive side, and we'll obviously talk about the Hawks here, but Illinois actually is top 1 or 2 in all 3 of the major statistical statistical categories right now. When we talk about points allowed, Iowa has dropped out of that spot, obviously, after last weekend. So Illinois actually takes over that spot, only allowing 8.4 points per game. They only allowed they rank second in the Big Ten in yards allowed at 229.2 yards, and they actually lead the Big Ten in sacks with 16 currently. So they are. We talk about, you just mentioned tackle for loss, and what those guys on the defensive side are able to do, in particular the guys in the middle. These guys are doing a tremendous job of getting up the field and making plays. So speaking to that and segueing that directly into this weekend's game offensively for the Hawkeyes. You know, we've talked about the woes of this team, some of the difficulties that we've seen throughout the season. At this point, David, we know that Spencer has struggled. We know that the offense has struggled a bit as well. We've gotten a number of guys who are at least scholarship receivers back. We know that those guys have made a difference. What you've seen from this Illinois defensive front and defense as a whole, that back end is pretty tremendous as well. What do the Hawkeyes need to do to get to pull out this win? Because I mean, I haven't been able to generate a ton of points. Spencer Petras has only thrown for 524 yards on the season. Our leading rusher, Spencer Petras is thrown for 770 yards on the season. My mistake, I didn't add in last week's totals. And Caleb Johnson, who is still a reserve, leads our rushing attack at 206 yards. So what does this team need to do to pull it out on Saturday's game? What does Spencer need to do to get over the top? And how does this offense take the next step?
You know, it really comes down to the offensive line play. And I mean, that's part of it. And Spencer, he's got to make those throws when they're available. When we saw heck, you and I saw last week with the Michigan game, you know, overthrows, errant throws, things are just not in that catchable zone. The offensive line gave up 3 untimely sacks, like in a row. So the offensive line really needs to start to get some kind of cohesion. There's like an 8-man rotation going on with that O line right now. I mean, we were talking about that earlier. Like, there's some some basketball teams that only have an 8-man rotation, but you got the offensive line with an 8-man rotation. When are we going to settle in on who that front 5 is going to be? And if we can't figure that out, especially since they're there every day, I mean, I'm not sure what we're doing here. I'm a little what's the best way to put it? I'm giving pause with our offensive line, especially going against this defensive line with those 2 defensive tackles, Mr. Newton and Mr. Randolph. Mr. Newton is the number 2 defensive tackle nationally. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And then we got Mr. Randolph here. He's got total tackles. He's team leader for tackles for loss, and sacks. He's tied for, I think he's second on those 2. Yeah. I mean, we have some severe issues that need to be addressed on that line. When we look at the center, the guards, our right tackle, they're going to start once they start to see you open up that gate. Those defensive ends are not going to come in to make it easier for you, especially in pass rushing, or I should say, a passing down. They're not going to make it easy. They're watching film just like everybody else is, and those guys over there, the professionals, the coaches, they get paid a lot of money to figure out how to beat you, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to run twists. They're going to come off the edges. So if we don't pick up the blitz, if we don't get that run game established, which is going to be really tough against this defense, like you said, I think they're number one defense in the Big Ten right now. And in several categories, they're top 5. So this is going to be a tough one. Getting that offensive line against that defensive line, we have to win there. Just for what I'm seeing here on paper, it doesn't look like we match up very well. That's probably why Illinois is predicted to win 60%. That's just what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, this is gonna be a tough matchup for sure. This is not the Illinois team of old. It's not the Illinois team that even we played against back in the days. This is Brett has put together a roster of guys that have done tremendous throughout the season. It's going to be a dogfight. Just mentioned those defensive linemen. Keith Randolph leads the team in tackles as a defensive tackle. That's wild. That's not something
that says a lot.
That says a whole lot. If you know football, you know that doesn't happen very often, and so they're going to be tenacious. Going to be getting after it. It's going to be a dogfight throughout. That's what we're looking for. Real quick, just looking to see where this receiving core picks up. We know Sam Porter leads this group with 21 receptions. Luke Lachey is second. He's second in yardage with 141 yards. Arlen Bruce is second in receptions with 12. So what, as a whole, how does this Hawkeye team walk out of Champaign with a W? We already know what we have on special teams and who brings what to the table. Bottom line is, how did the Hawks come out with a W?
The only way I see them coming out with a W is if Illinois they win the turnover battle, right? Somehow Illinois shoots themselves in the foot with that, and then we stop the run. Right? We got to win the turnover, and we got to stop the run. That defense, I'm going to stop calling them our defense, start calling them our second offense, or really their primary offense. And we need that to get going again, because against Michigan, they kind of drove the ball down our throat, and there wasn't much we could do about it. I mean, one time I saw Blake Corum, who he had, Jack Campbell. They met in the hole. He gave him a 2-piece and went out the right side. I was like, what? And that was it. Yeah, we need our defense to show up. We need those kids flying around. We need to stop that run. And then, offensive line, come on in. We need you guys there. That 8-man rotation, if we can at least consolidate down, like maybe to 6, maybe 7, I don't know. Get away from 8. That'd be nice.
Well, hopefully they can get to the point where they're comfortable doing that. But at this point, that's what has to happen. Hopefully they find that their right 5-man rotation. So it's going to be a huge game, another night game, another primetime night game up there in Champaign, Illinois, like I mentioned. So we're going to see, the former Hawkeye, the Hawkeye at heart, Brett Bielema, is playing host to this Hawkeye unit that is definitely one that he's familiar with, having played against them, having played for them, having coached for them, having coached against them. So it's going to be a tall task for this Hawkeye team, but looking forward to the challenge and seeing how this thing turns out. So with that, I'm Colin Cole. This has been Hawk Talk, and my co-host, David Porter. Appreciate you for being on, buddy, and thank you guys for joining us on Hawk Talk. Click subscribe and all that good stuff. Join join us as we continue to do this on a weekly basis. So thank you for watching. I'm Colin Cole, and that's David Porter. Thank you guys. God bless, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.